Climate Salad.
Yeah.
Amazing. What do we call it? Is it an organisation? Is it a venture? Is it a movement? I don't know. What do we call it?
Yeah, now we're 4 years in. We've got 800 climate tech companies, 1,200 members, about 125 investors, 150 mentors. And our goal is to help Australian climate tech companies go global. Australia produces a lot of great technology, but we don't commercialise nearly enough. People keep saying to me we punch above our weight.
Do you think it's harder for climate companies to go global than others? Because they're often, we're not talking about a SaaS software that just rolls out and sells to B2B, right?
We need 10,000 little changes, and actually, if you think about 8 billion people on the planet, we'll do 100 things a day. That's 800 billion little behaviour changes. We will not look back at any investment we make now negatively. We will absolutely say, I wish we did more.
So Mick, welcome. Finally, we meet in person.
Exactly. And we're making the most of it. We're recording something, so that's good.
Well, it seemed to be the only way we're actually ever going to meet was to record something.
High motivation.
So, Climate Salad.
Yeah.
Amazing. What do we call it? Is it an organisation? Is it a venture? Is it a movement? I don't know. What do we call it?
Well, look, the backstory is it was supposed to be just a newsletter.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So 9 years ago, my best friend in the world pushed me into climate innovation, said that we need 10,000 innovations. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a problem to solve over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
And then 4.5 years ago, I was working with about 12 companies. I'd done a little bit of investing, supporting them. And every time I told someone about these companies, they would just be blown away, like Cecil Earth or GoTerra or MJ Thermal. And I'm like, I need to tell people about this. So I started a blog, like literally 45 minutes, my wife and I, one weekend. She's an awesome marketing person.
Yep.
Created this blog, created this newsletter, put it out, and we got like 100 responses and 25 new companies contacted me.
Oh, wow.
And then by the end of the year, we were at 112 companies, like 100 companies within a 5-month period.
That's nuts.
And then the government contacted us, New South Wales government said, can you and your team run a program? I'm like, there's no team. Like there's nothing here. It's a newsletter.
Me and the wife.
And then we turned it into basically a membership-based industry group focused on Australians who are building global solutions to big climate problems.
Yes.
And that's what we've been doing.
And salad is the whole, it's a mixed match of things thrown together. I was always guessing that's what it was.
That was the goal. A lot of people rang me up and told me it was a terrible name. And I'm like, it's just a newsletter. Don't overthink it. But it has been pretty good in terms of, someone did think we were a catering company once. But that was the thing. It's green, it's multicultural, it's mixed, and we should have more of it.
That's about 100%. So firstly, my voice, I'm so sorry.
That's
I have had so many events. I have talked nonstop. It's Friday.
Yep.
I think I've got one more talking thing after this.
Okay.
And then hopefully my voice will hold on for that.
Have a break. I'll do the talking. That's right.
Yeah, you do the talking. Before we get into climate salad and all that sort of stuff, let's frame it up and sort of talk about you, because you've had a fascinating background, a lot of time in the US, stuff that a lot of our audience would love to hear.
Yeah.
So give me a sort of quick summary of the last 30 years. That's sort of how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, briefly, I was a total nerd as a teenager in computers, networks, databases, everything. That got me onto the internet before it was even a browser back in the early 90s.
The World Wide Web, as it was called.
Yeah, well, it'd be pre-World Wide Web, the links, text-based browsers, etc. So bulletin boards. And then built a couple of websites and started a web development agency. Then got into tech startups, and then I really loved working with multiple companies, and probably more about my personality and attention span than about my abilities. But just down the road, actually, we here in Surrey Hills, we started Pollenizer back in 2008.
I loved Pollenizer. It's such a cool name. You've got good names in your life.
That was Phil Moore. So Phil was my partner. He's now the partner at Main Sequence. So we started Pollenizer back then with a view of doing almost what we've done in Climate Salad in tech, which is Australia deserves a great tech industry. Let's support it. We did 25 tech companies in about a 7-year period.
Right.
2 exits, 2 still going. Lawpath's doing brilliantly. They're a great team.
They come in here and film all the time.
Oh, do
They're
they?
just down the road. Yeah. They do a lot of filming in the studio here.
Yeah. So that was great. And then we were co-founding investors and mentors of StartMate. And then Telstra approached.
He's been in the show too.
All right, yeah. Nicky. Yeah. And then Telstra asked me to come and set up a tech accelerator for them with Annie Parker and Charlotte Yarkoni. That was Muridi. And we had all these companies going to the US, and they said go to the US and help the companies on the ground. So My wife and I and three young kids moved to San Francisco, 2016.
Big change.
It wasn't the peak. It wasn't the best time to go to San Francisco, let's be honest.
No.
But it did change my life in a really good way because a certain person pulled out of the Paris Agreement for the first time. And then my friend nudged me into climate.
Yeah.
So and then I started working with the universities over there, Berkeley, Stanford, Singularity University, and the Y Combinator programs.
I love the Singularity University. I've come across them and worked with them a few times. They're a fascinating organisation.
Yeah, massive ambition, right? I think it's a real new take on having impact. So yeah, that was great. And then I moved back to Australia in 2019. Did a couple of years with BCG Digital Ventures.
Yep. Gosh, I remember those.
Yeah.
God, you're taking me on a journey of my youth.
Yeah, exactly. Even though we're both really, really young. And then I really wanted to work on climate, so I left to focus on climate technology work. And now we're 4 years in. We've got 800 climate tech companies, 1,200 members, about 125 investors, 150 mentors. And our big goal is to help Australian climate tech companies go global because one of the things that's worth digging into is that Australia produces a lot of great technology, but we don't commercialise nearly enough. And people keep saying to me, we punch above our weight, and I'm like, we punch nowhere near our weight. We have massive advantages, such an incredible potential and opportunity, and we do well based on our size and distance.
Yep.
But I think that's a missed opportunity.
Do you think it's harder for climate companies to go global than others? Because they're often, we're not talking about a SaaS software that just rolls out and sells to B2B, right? Which is what a lot of people do.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more complexity. They're often physical businesses, and there's a lot of cost and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So do you think it's a bigger barrier being further away with the kind of organizations?
Huge. So there's two big barriers. One is that climate is not fully appreciated and valued, whereas now,
ironically,
SaaS that's right. I saw a company get funded and they do something like HR optimization. It's like solving all the world's big problems.
Not changing the world at all,
exactly.
Right?
Or there was an e-commerce platform for making people buy more stuff they don't need. I'm like, great, thank you. But that's the reality. Is that those are established categories, and the simplicity of SaaS, I'll say, even though it's very, very hard to do, is start a company in Australia and focus on the US. And 99% of businesses do that, and they'll have a decent chance. Mm-hmm. But as you said, in climate, a third of the companies are software, a third are devices.
Yep.
So it's $100 to $20,000 products.
Yep.
And then a third of them are infrastructure based.
Which is even more difficult to grow.
Much more difficult. So you look at a company like GoTerra, an absolute alchemy magical company. They use roboticized machines that have maggots in them to eat food waste for Woolies, Lendlease, and Hyatt, and it turns it into chicken feed and fertilizer. Like,
it's wild.
That's a magic product, but it's a bioengineered product. You've got to install it. It's messy. There are maggots involved. Like it's full on.
It's not easy to sell maggots to investors.
No, but you're selling massively reduced methane, which again the world doesn't fully value. So, it is definitely harder for those reasons.
So go back to when you used the great word nudge, and you said you got nudged into climate. So your one of your friends you said he pushed you into it. So tell me a little bit about that. And did you have any interest in climate before, or was it more of a passing interest? How did that? Because obviously you're so embedded in it now. Like how did that sort of happen? Yeah,
I would say I was I would describe now, I would have said at the time I'm quite an active, positive person.
Yeah.
I had worm farms, I recycled, I was,
you were doing your bit.
I was doing my bit.
Yeah.
But he sent me a couple of reports. And again, I think when I moved to the US, it opened up space in my life. Mm-hmm. And that was critical.
It would have done because you didn't know anyone.
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually knew a few people, but I left like 10 boards in Australia, and it created a bit of a space.
Yeah.
And also I'm having this early midlife crisis of like, what am I going to do for the next 20 years? Mm-hmm. And then he sent me some reports. So randomly, a guy I grew up playing basketball with and now surf with was the chair of the European Commission for Sustainable Finance.
That's random.
Like this massive role. He's in.
Does it sound like a little role?
he's in Brazil at the moment in COP, working on like $1 trillion worth of sustainable finance. So, but I just said to him, hey, this US has pulled out of the Paris Agreement. This looks really bad. And he's like, maybe it's time you got in the game. And that's a basketball reference of get off the bench and get in the game.
Do something.
Do something.
Make an impact.
And I'm like, I'm a nerd. What am I going to do? He goes, we need 10,000 innovations in sustainability and clean tech. And I'm like, hey, I can do that. So,
and when he says 10,000 innovations, is it in 10,000 businesses or 10,000 ideas, or how do you define that?
Every little product in the world needs to change slightly to become sustainable.
Right.
Supply chain, every little thing we've got. So the massive difference of this can I've got here can be 99.5% recycled, whereas this glass at the moment it's about 6 to 14% recycled.
Really?
So this can could be almost exactly the same can as a Pepsi can back in the 60s or 70s, like incredibly. But yeah, glass is more challenging, and obviously plastics, which are plastics is an incredible chemical solution. We can just do it. We need to do it in slightly different ways. I love travel. I want to get on planes and travel around the world. I'm about to hit 50 countries next year after I finish in Antarctica. But the plane needs to be filled with sustainable aviation fuel. And to do sustainable aviation fuel, that by itself needs 100 technologies, because you need to be able to grow it, you need to move it, you need to so there's just everything we've got that makes humanity amazing today and that has benefited my life needs to change slightly, and all of that needs innovations to do that.
Can everything in our lives become sustainable, or are there things that we should just actually get rid of?
Yeah, there's a big difference between doing less bad. So if you, there's definitely better ways to do coal. Like coal has been, an incredible energy source. You can make it more efficient. You can do sort of carbon capture and storage, but it's less worse versus solar and wind. And then you've got solar, which is like the solar panels aren't as fully recyclable as they could be. We've got to improve all those components. So I think there are some things which we should just stop. Mm-hmm. So definitely consumption. Like people talk about it, the population's too big, and that's not the reality. The issue is consumption. So
as in how much each person is consuming of everything?
Of everything.
Yeah.
And like if you look at the 8 billion people on the planet, it's actually the Americans, the Australians, the English, the Canadians, that we consume like 3 to 10 times the average. So
it's so bad, isn't it?
We would need like 6 Earths if everyone ate like an Australian and consumed like an Australian, we'd need 6 Earths. It's like 12 for the US or something. I should check the numbers.
Wow.
But so we do have to cut back some consumption, and it's little things like just wear your jeans a little bit longer, and when you're ordering catering for an event, don't have 45 sandwiches left over. Like there's just there is behavioural changes which definitely help. And this is the reality. I like to joke that there's no silver mushroom in getting the world back to climate positive.
Yep.
We need 10,000 little changes, and actually, if you think about 8 billion people on the planet, we'll do 100 things a day. That's 800 billion little behavior changes. But I think it's totally doable.
Yeah, you do. And so, how many do you think since you started?
Yeah.
What number are you at?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Look, vast majority of our companies we work with are still at an early stage.
Yes.
We have about 50 companies that are valued at more than $50 million, and some of them are heading towards $1 billion.
That's amazing.
And it's interesting to talk about solving a climate problem with a capitalist solution, but I think we have to. So some of these products, getting capital into them and turning them into great businesses is probably the fastest way to actually get outcomes. And that's really important, because instead of saying, please buy my product, it's not as good and it's 20% more expensive, but it happens to be better for the environment, what we're seeing now is, buy my product, it lowers your risk in the long term, it can save you money, and it's better than the alternatives.
That was the change that needed to happen.
That's right. And GoTerra is a good example of that, of like, instead of taking your now policy comes in and says you can't just throw your waste Woolworths, you can't just throw it in landfill because of the methane costs. Mm-hmm. We're going to charge you X dollars per tonne. That's bloody expensive. Well, hang on, what do you put in a GoTerra machine, and actually it'll produce chicken feed and fertilizer on the other side, and we'll charge you 1/10 of that. It's like, that sounds like a really good outcome. And the CFO is happy, right? Like, you can't just do it for the sustainability people. The CFO and the company has to go, that makes economic sense.
Because of the capitalist environment we're in, shareholders and so forth, everyone needs to have.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're not going to dismantle that and get to degrowth at any time soon. We need to work with that system and make a lot of changes by making better products.
Yeah.
So that in terms of your question around how far have we gone, I think we've made incredible progress, but we haven't tipped over yet in terms of on two things. One is wholesale economic value, and the second one is everybody appreciating that value. So
is the second one harder?
I think it is, because number one, I'd say 7 billion people on the planet don't have massive amounts of money sitting there to be able to pay a premium and to have impact in their life. There's a lot of people are still trying to get food, shelter, education, electricity, and safety. So to expect them to make that call, then you've got the top 0.1% who have trillions of dollars in wealth, and they're like, I don't need it. I'm so wealthy. I'm going to fly my private jet to Paris for my favorite cheesecake. But then you've got the people in the middle who can make the change. But the reality is nearly vast majority of people have either personally or indirectly through someone close to them had an experience with a climate disaster, which feels significantly worse than it did 10, 20, 50 years ago. So, and it's really different to everybody. You could have been directly involved in a flood. You could be sitting up in Lismore going, I don't mind rebuilding my house every 10, 15 years for a big flood, but every 3 to 5 years is just ridiculous. And we've been doing some great work with NRMA Insurance around, we built Help Fund with them, which is to help Australians get more climate resilient by implementing Australian innovations into Australian communities. And I think it's a great example of a really great combination of factors, which is helping us get to that tipping point.
I've got 2 questions from that. I'm trying to decide which one to ask first. I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, which was the investment side.
Yeah.
It's getting easier.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot harder.
Yeah.
I feel like the investment money going into climate-based businesses is almost a lot like the investment money going into female founders. Yeah. There's a lot of talk and very little action.
Yeah.
Was that how in reality, I mean, obviously I'm not involved enough to know, but that's how it seems from the outside.
Well, there's really good support at the very early stages, a lot of accelerators, a lot of university programs, and there's literally trillions of dollars at the late stage.
Nothing in the middle.
And it's really hard in the middle. And the reason is still about timing, because investors would rather pay 3, 5, 10x more for a company or a product when they know it's leading and going to win than to take the risk too early. So there's a big, especially with Cleantech 1.0 with solar and EVs, a lot of people lost a lot of money, and so therefore people are waiting till it's definitely real, and then they'll pay extras. And corporates are the same.
Yeah, I think it's you're sort of talking about seed, Series A, B, that kind of level, which is that sort of where we're thinking?
Even as you said, because hardware,
so expensive.
A Series A for a software company could be $3 million.
Yeah,
we've got Series A's,
60. Yeah,
$60 million Series A's.
Yeah.
Like V2 Foods was a $85 million Series A.
Yeah, we've
got Sakona Batteries, Electrify, Allegro Energy, MJ Thermal. These companies are $100 million products. So that we talk about it being slower to $1 million but faster to $1 billion in revenue. But that means that the capital requirements are significantly higher, and actually they're more complicated in terms of they need debt financing and infrastructure financing.
All that stuff.
Everything's more complicated.
Yeah. Do you have a company that has completely blown you away with an innovation that you just thought, there's a lot of innovations that are, obviously is the wrong word, but, they tell you about it, you go, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously just talked about the food waste thing. I had not heard of that. I think that's amazing. But is there any one that you can think of or two that you've just gone, oh my God.
Yeah.
How the hell did you think about that?
Yeah, look, I've got 800. We'll have to extend this off this for another 4 or 5 hours. A few really quickly. One, Capricorn Power.
Yep.
Some guys who've been in the energy system industry for a long, long time. They've basically used a jet engine and made a version of it. It's a recuperated Brayton engine, which can take waste products and turn it into 24-hour electricity.
Wow.
Do you remember Back to the Future 2 where he comes back in the thing and he puts this stuff in? So Barwon Water in Victoria, they're trying to do a deal with Arena and Capricorn Power. It processes sewage and has these massive energy needs. They can actually put sewage in the front end of this engine and produce electricity out of the sewage that they're actually processing.
That's wild.
In 24 hours energy. That's amazing. And the second one is MJ Thermal out of Newcastle University. 2 material scientists mucking around with aluminium and graphite, and they're like, they create this brick which basically contains its shape, and you heat it a bit and it stays really hot for a long time. And the incredible thing, so it burns like coal, except the next day it's still sitting there.
So
And do you know what you do
endless.
again? Use it again. You can use it hundreds of times, and then when you're finished with it, you can recycle it and turn it into a can. So like that is alchemy, right? That is alchemy.
Amazing.
And they are two material scientists out of Newcastle University, a coal town that is now booming, like Newcastle University, the I2N program up there, Siobhan and the team, like it has just incredible potential. Allegro's up there, Melt Ventures is up there in Muswellbrook with a hardware deep tech with a big focus on climate. Like there's just this is why I get excited about telling my story, because there are so many good things happening.
Gosh, the brains on people that come up with these things, I find just fascinating.
So one really important thing is you and I, even though we look really, really, really young.
I like the way you keep saying this.
There's the younger generation. There might be digital natives, but they're also environmental natives.
They are.
So I talk about making stuff less bad. They talk about nature first. And that is a different perspective. So I think it's brains and a perspective change. Yep. My dad is a massive climate denier, thinks it's all made up because scientists can, horrible scientists can tear down these fossil fuel industries. But actually, I've got 3 kids. They are nature first. You don't have to convince them that there's a problem. You're like, why aren't we doing it with nature? Because I kind of like breathing. I like drinking water, and I need food. Like reasonably important for humans.
Yep.
So the combination of brains and perspective, I think, is critical.
Well, that has segued nicely into the other question. So I'm glad I asked the investment one first. So where I was going to go from that was, where and how close do you feel we are to the tipping point of, not being able to come back unless we do something drastic? So I guess what I'm thinking here is everyone's making efforts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of climate deniers.
Yeah.
People make an effort until they don't anymore, and there's a reason for that. We're seeing that right now in particularly politics, right? Yeah. I guess where is that point, do you think, and I know no one knows the answer, where it's so hard to come back.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a point of what we can't not do something now or we're gone.
Yeah. I've got a rule of maximum 3% of time on the negatives, but
okay. I'm just intrigued to know.
No, great. So in a few weeks I get
don't send me a few weeks.
In a few weeks I get to graduate from my Masters of Sustainable Development at Macquarie University, which was an incredible experience. I did it slowly over 4 years in my spare time. So fascinating. We did environmental health, environmental law, environmental pollution, just all these, studied these things in depth. Mm. And the really hard thing actually as a dad and someone who's a total optimist is to not read the news about how bad things could get.
Yep.
And the reality is it's actually very, very hard to explain. And it's one of the things, you're an incredible communicator, but the issue of the scientists to talk about 2 degrees by 2050 has been, I think, disastrous. Mm-hmm. But also, I am a pretty smart guy and I've spent 4 years studying these things. They are incredibly complex. Yep. So there's the La Nina, El Nino weather patterns, the things like the Thwaites glacier in Antarctica, at least 3 kilometers of water on a glacier that has been cycling for 10,000 years, during which humanity has thrived. And if that basically starts melting and flows in the ocean, you're talking within a 5-year period of 2 or 3 meters of sea level rise. And
it's a lot.
And I'm going to Antarctica in January with a bunch of climate scientists, and it's that scary. Everyone knows about Siberia and how cold it is. Siberia actually has so much organic material frozen into the tundra. Mm-hmm. If that thaws, then that is released as methane and could have 20 to 50 years of negative carbon emissions in over a 10-year period. Mm. Those 2 things, they happen and we do not go back.
Yeah.
And the complexity of them is amazing. There's this thing called AMOC, which is it's a really hard, it's the anti-meridional oscillating, not currents, but
rolls
circuit.
Off the tongue.
But it's basically how water and air moves across the oceans. Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly complex based on the acidity in the water, the temperatures, the wind, there's 50 different factors. If that slows down, and that changes dramatically, everything in terms of food, you could have a point where there's effectively 80% loss of sea life and seafood. So there are, this is the hard thing to talk about, is people kind of think, I get climate change is not very good and a few extra bushfires, a few extra storms. It could genuinely be disastrous. Mm-hmm. My view is we actually have made so much progress on technology and policy and people understanding this, that if we have exponential growth in a couple of areas over the next 10 years, we will avoid most of it. But we are well past 1.5 degrees.
Yep.
And the way to think about it is not the weather, but think about your own body temperature. I've got kids, and they can be hot after a sports game, or they can be cold in winter. But if you get the thermometer on them and their temperature's gone up 1.5 degrees,
it's terrible.
You take them to hospital, right? And that's the way to think about it. Is it's the regulated temperature, not weather. Like, they are two completely different things. And the main thing I can say is 4 years of studying it, I'm a decently rational person. Like, it could get bad, and it's worth us like, we will not look back on any investment we make now negatively. We will absolutely say, I wish we did more. No matter what I will say that. Like, I'm committed my whole life to it. Massive cost to my whole family. But I will definitely say by 2035, two things. The whole world has changed so significantly. Like, I think we'll be at 80% EVs by 2035. I think we'll be at microgrids in the homes with solar and wind and solar and batteries and EVs. But we will also look back and say, I wish we did a bit more.
Yeah. Well, that you're setting me up for my questions perfectly. So, switching back to the more positive side, how far have we come? Because we all know, and the irony is, everyone knows we're not doing enough, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to have any impact. But we are having an impact. We have changed. There aren't plastic bags. There aren't, there's a zillion things that, even you go back to CFCs, and you remember when that happened?
Right.
That was so long ago, right?
Yeah.
But there has been a lot of global change, and there has been global. How far have we come? I think, one of the things I took a lot about on this show is a lot of entrepreneurs are always pushing for the next goal. They never actually look back at what they've achieved.
Yeah.
And I think you need to, because I think it gives you more motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
So as a global community, how far have we come? What have we achieved?
It's a really good question. I was asked recently about but what about the ozone layer? It repaired itself. And it's like, it actually didn't. We had this, the Montreal Protocol, and we changed like 4 or 5 million products around the world, basically refrigeration and aerosols, and then we repaired it. So it was actually a great example of what we had to do. Interestingly, though, the US benefited because DuPont had the patents on hydrofluorocarbons. It's the only global environmental protocol that they actually supported because they financially benefited of it. So that's something negative in that. I think there is incredible belief that we are about to have a positive tipping point.
That's good.
And my view is it's going to happen in 2027. And the reason I say that is I'm an old geek who's been through a lot of innovation waves, and I know what it feels like before it's about to take off. So Phil and I, back in our pollinizer offices, when we're sitting here going, we've got engineers, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got technology, we've got platforms and tools. Like, we've got the essence of what we need to go and build this. And out of that, you have StartMate and Blackbird and Canva and all these other things come out of it. So I think we are just ahead of that. And on the negative side, the problems are actually driving policy change. And no matter what you think about national narrative, certainly the last 24 hours, global policy is absolutely moving in this direction because you can legislate against clear problems. There's too much plastic in our bloodstreams. We've got to legislate against that. People are dying from carbon emissions, like from pollution. Like, you can legislate against that. So that legislation is increasing over time. So you've got policy-driven growth, and then you've got more customers because of policy, but also because of problems. So when you walk in the store and they're sitting next to, if I see a plastic drink and I see a can, I'm going to take the can because I know that it's more recyclable. And 8 billion people make those tiny decisions in that direction. Well,
sushi fish has been in the news this week, right?
Huge.
How many of those damn things are made? If we get rid of those and put them in
billions,
like literally that, it's such a painless small change. Like the ozone story. You look back at those changes we did with refrigeration and aerosols. It was completely painless.
That's right.
It was not a bother at all.
That's right.
It really did. It was, but it seemed like it at the time.
That's right. That's the challenge for entrepreneurs, is to make new product, right? So if you get your little cardboard thing, which I saw recently that Australia's doing for your soy sauce, you don't care. You just want the soy sauce on your avocado and chicken wrap or salmon wrap. So I think that's exactly right. There's a really interesting tension between I feel like this is bad. I should do something about it. But I'm just one person out of 8 billion.
Yep.
Surely my one can doesn't make a difference. And actually, percentage-wise, it doesn't. But what is important is actually the perception of what happens. Mm-hmm. So now everyone here in this room, everyone I interact with gets slightly more infected with saying, maybe I should try a little bit harder. And when I say you try a bit harder and the next person try a bit harder, we all try a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So that is absolutely happening. And so as those customers grow, more people want to build products for them. More investors want to invest in those companies. And then so you've got policy driving it, increased customers. And the final thing is the technology is getting better and better and better. So instead of saying, hey, buy my product, it's 20% more and it's a bit crappy, but it happens to be good for the environment, I'm saying it saves you money and makes you money. So DNA Energy is a great example. They manage energy systems for bigger sites. Mm-hmm. They had a big fast food company in the US. Curious about their product. Nice to have. Maybe I'll try it.
Yep.
They have a heat wave. All the aircon goes down. The energy blows out. They can't actually open their stores for a couple of weeks. Lose millions and millions of dollars.
Yep.
They send a purchase order through the next day because they're like, it's risk management.
Yeah.
This actually is a continuity for my business. Energy has to be managed. We've taken it for granted, and now that's not the case. So they're the three things why I think 2027 is going to be the big tipping point. Mm-hmm. Policy is driving more customers, and more customers is driving better technology, and that's all going to tip over.
It seems to me that as a species, we almost need something drastic to happen to us for us to take action.
Yeah.
Is there something drastic that's going to happen before 2027 that's going to cause that tipping point in your mind?
Possibly. I was worried / hopeful, and this is an awful position to be in, right?
I know what you're going to say here is what I understand. Go on, please.
I thought the Olympics was going to have a moment where there was going to be a disaster. And we were a bit lucky. But I think there's a high chance of a sporting event where someone might die. And I'm not hoping for it. I sound like an arsehole saying this. I'm not wanting that to happen, and I'm not wanting floods and those things. But you're right. Like 9/11 is a moment where a plane crashes in the building. You're like, holy, that is just awful. Yeah. We need to do something about it. This is a boiling frog problem where you're basically saying like this is a tiny thing that actually increments over time to the point where it's too late to go and act.
Yeah.
So it's something that humans are not very good at responding to, and that's why. The Young News had a thing of the average person needs to be personally impacted by the environment every 3 days to care. And it's kind of right. It's kind of right to be like, if you're sitting there trying to pay your bills and you're working your butt off in 2 jobs and you're trying to get your kids through school and Mick Liubinskas comes on and says, can you please do this and pay, can you get a battery for your home?
Yep.
It's 15 grand. You're like, what are you talking about, mate? Like,
yeah.
So, and so we've got to make better products where it's like, there's a company in the US that is offering free batteries in your home for $19 a month, and they offer blackout protection.
Amazing.
So they give you this free massive battery, but what they want to do is they want to have that battery as a part of their virtual power plant to manage the grid.
So that don't give you the guarantees.
Everyone's happy though. The house gets a battery. The house gets uninterrupted power if it goes down, and the grid gets better energy. So there's business model innovation here as well.
The thing with innovation is sometimes I think it holds change back. I'll give you a great example. Think about when plasma screens came along. First time they ever came.
Yep.
We're old enough, young enough, however you want to describe it, to remember. They were a fortune. Yeah. They were like 28 grand, right? Yeah. And now they're like $300.
Yeah.
And everybody sees that in every product. They come out, they're so expensive. But if you wait, you know they're going to come down. And this is what's happening with batteries right now. Yeah. I would love to go and get a battery. Yeah. A lot of people would love to go and get a battery.
Sure.
At the beginning, I didn't get solar because I was waiting for batteries, right? Sure, and I was like, why would I get solar? Because I'm not going to be there most of the time when I'm using it. That was before we all worked from home. Yeah. You know, there's always there's always an excuse, I think. And unfortunately, because we know batteries will get cheap and someone will come up with that solution here in Australia, we all wait for it. And it almost holds back, innovation holds back progress. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it does. I mean, look, there's always the early adopters and I think there's a public benefit of this, which is why I think subsidies in this area make sense. Important. And there's a diesel petrol subsidy, like which is billions, right? And so we subsidize a lot of these things. So I don't think it's crazy to
look at the car industry here for years and years and years. All those places in Adelaide, I was looking at these things going, if they took that money and retrained them all, that would just be such a better. But they did. I mean, they did eventually, but it took forever.
Yeah, it is. And look, there's advanced manufacturing, sort of national security and sovereign wealth of different kinds. So it's definitely complex, but absolutely, I think there is that pressure point that we're getting to where now it just becomes easy.
Yeah.
Batteries are coming down so fast in speed. And again, Australia, if you would ask me 4 years ago where our strengths are going to be, I might have said ad tech and grid and energy. Yeah. But long duration energy storage is actually a huge area. So it's kind of mid-size. There's home batteries and then there's the next big size. Both of those together are combining to the point where it's going to change everything. Because it answers the question about when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. So batteries are going to get to the point. So two things I'm going to say. I'd say by 2030 you're going to have an EV, and also you're going to go into Bunnings and you're going to be in there buying a couple of screws and another succulent, and you're going to go buy a battery for $100.
Wild.
Like think about solar panels. The first solar panels in the space programs were millions and millions of dollars per square centimeter, and now I just got some solar panels. Like a guy tried to charge me $5,000 for my lights on my driveway. I just got solar. It was like $50. Yeah. I'm like, I had to wire it all up. So solar has got so cheap because it's scaled.
Yeah.
So, and I think all technologies go on this Wright's law path where every time they scale, their prices come down dramatically.
Come way down.
And what you also have is India and China are leading this massively because of these huge populations. Then you've got Indonesia and Philippines and Vietnam, these incredible high-tech countries with massive populations and huge needs who are skipping. They're not going to have big grids with coal-fired power plants.
No, they're just going past that phase of...
Exactly. And people talk about China. It's like, China's still installing lots of coal-fired power plants. They're not using them very much. And they're installing, last year, 10 times as much solar than coal installations. For the last 18 months, for the first time ever, and they're going through huge growth.
Yes.
And they've got a massive middle class. We've gone through our growth and benefits. Like, it's hard for us to say, hey, don't you pollute just because we did.
Yep. It's very hard to say that.
But they are also knowing that they have economic benefit out of this. They have an EV and battery industry and a solar industry because they nailed supply chain. So they could investing in it. So it's complicated, but it's a big problem and we can solve it.
So interesting. You said you're going to Antarctica.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Why? Who with? How long? What are you looking at?
Yes, going in January. So it's been on my bucket list for a long time. I had a goal that before I turned 50, I wanted to get to 50 countries. And prior to COVID, I was on track. But I'm now sitting at I'm at 48 countries and 5 continents. So next year I'm going to Chile and then Argentina and down to Antarctica, and I'll be 7 continents, 50 countries.
Wow.
So I was whinging about it being on my bucket list to a good friend of mine, Leona Watson, and she's an incredible business coach. She's been twice, and she's like, hey, let's get a group of people going down. So we've got Anastasia from Regrow, Paul Fox from EV. So we've got a bunch of climate people.
Yeah.
And we're going to go and spend 2 weeks on a boat and go see this incredible experience of Antarctica.
It would be so stunning. What's your anticipation for this like? Because it's like nowhere else in the world.
It really is. And also, and from a climate perspective, it's really, really important. Like,
do you think it'll be scary as well?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. So 20 years ago, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, and I saw the glaciers up there. And on the top, you're only there for 5 minutes. And Jeremy, my guide, was like basically like, Mick, it's melting. It's like
it's going.
He said it might not be here for your kids, and I was like, whoa! It had this really incredible moment. That was before I totally got into this. And then 4 years ago, I was up in Cairns and I got taken by some marine scientists down and saw the coral reefs, and they showed me the bleaching. I was like, wow!
It's horrific. The bleaching.
It's huge. It's a really big issue and massive tourism, right? So if the Great Barrier Reef's white, then there's significantly less tourists.
No one wants to see it. Yeah.
So I want to go and have this experience with nature. I really want to go and spend some time on a boat where I'm not having, 35-second conversations with 100 people. I want to have deep and meaningful conversations, and I want to be shocked by the beauty and fragility of nature, and that's what I'm hoping to see.
Incredible. How'd you get there? Did you fly somewhere, or did you just go straight from Tassie, or what's the journey?
You can fly from there and you can go from New Zealand, but basically into Santiago, onto Buenos Aires.
Yep.
And we've got we're meeting with a lot of the climate tech leaders of in Argentina, which is really good. Then you fly down to Ushuaia, which is on the very southern tip of Argentina, right? And then you get a boat across the Drake's Passage, which is pretty wobbly.
I was gonna say, that's supposed to be pretty wild, isn't it?
It's the worst ocean crossing in the world.
Yeah.
But then you get down,
wild,
down to Antarctica, which is beautifully still, and you jump in the water. I'm camping on the ice.
You do get in the water,
yeah,
because the water looks like the most purest liquid in the world in the pictures and movies that I've seen, or documentaries and so forth.
It is cold, but it is very fresh, obviously, and like significantly less pollution. And then, we camp on the ice overnight in a sleeping bag and kayaking. So, going to go have this big experience.
How incredible!
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to hehearing about that. We'll definitely get you back on, because I want to hear about that. I love doing trips like that where you go and do insane things. That'll be incredible. Mick, what do you want to say to anyone who's watching this? Like we have 60,000 followers with them. A lot of them are founders, right? So everyone wants to do their bit, but they may watch this and then just go back because if nothing happened. If there's one simple thing they can do, is it investing in, we're talking about innovators here. We're not talking about average people in terms of they're not necessarily in jobs. These are people who take action. What's something someone like that should do? Yeah,
it's a really good thought. I think the first thing to think about is this transition is well underway. So if you think it's not going to affect you, then I think it's worth thinking about it whether it does. What does water cost affect you? What if you export a product into European Union, like they have CBAM kicking in next year, which means everything gets taxed on its environmental costs at full cost. So even if you're manufacturing it in Vietnam or Bangladesh and you're sending it to Europe, so there are implications for everybody on this. So think about the negatives and be aware of those, but more importantly, think about the opportunities. What could you do if this is a growing area? What could you do to actually reduce the risk of your business, but actually go and grow as well? So take that on the positive side. The really easy things anyone can do is to move your super over to Future Super or Australian Ethical. Like that is a huge signal because it's about a 20-year investment. You'll still get a great return and it's going to be more likely to go to positive sources than negative sources. The biggest change that can happen in Australia to change the entire industry, and goes back to your initial point of how do you sell these products internationally when they're difficult, is if we can get Australian companies to buy Australian innovations, then that is the biggest thing to unlock. Now, if these are innovators running their own companies, they're obviously not sitting in procurement of these other big companies, but they might have already sold into Australian companies. They may know them. And the harsh reality is because Australia is a small market, we've never had to buy innovations. So we wait for the world to decide. And then we follow, and we certainly don't buy Australian innovations. We almost see it as a negative.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Because you go, well,
when you say it that way,
I've never had to buy one, so my perception is that I normally buy American stuff, or I buy Chinese appliances, or I buy European or something. And Australian, there's just a negative perception. Whereas if we can actually buy our own products at an R&D or an innovation stage, that gives validation, it gives revenue, and it increases the local circularity of value. Whereas the alternative is two bad things happen. One, the company grows very slowly in Australia because it takes years and they end up being small. The second one is they get frustrated and they go and the value is lost. So quickly compare the difference between Atlassian and Canva. Atlassian was started significantly earlier, no investors from Australia, ESOP for the employees, but overseas and grown, massive success and a lot of positive output, but no Australian investors benefited other than an IPO. Canva, seed investors, Series A investors, like an ESOP, like the return of value to Australia from Canva
is massive.
Because it's 10 years late and was done when the ecosystem was at a different level is huge. And I think that's that circularity of value in Australia when Australians buy Australian innovations is the biggest unlock by far.
It's a great example. And of course, everyone should join Climate Salad.
Just $125 a year.
$125 a year. Where does that go? That's a great. I think people would want to know what happens to that money.
Well, you can see me wonderfully dressed here today.
Absolutely.
So
I saw the car you came in, and the chopper,
in a helicopter. That $125 from 1,200 people I'm raking in there. So the whole purpose of that was, I loved there's Facebook groups for entrepreneurs and things, and if they're open access, they get noisy very quickly.
They do.
And so we wanted everyone in there to be committed, and we thought that we needed to price it at a point which was allowed for an entrepreneur with no money and give them base value.
Yep.
So entrepreneurs get to be in our WhatsApp group and in our Slack community. They get a bit of time from me over the year. They get discounts on events. We've got about 300 videos.
You do a lot of events.
We used to. We've cut them down a little bit because we've actually, a lot of the early government funding has wrapped up, and the part of the reason it's wrapped up is because we hit critical mass.
Right.
4 years ago, the goal was to hit 1,000 companies by 2030, and then last year, 3 years in, we're at 700.
So you're pretty close.
And we're like, look, the job's done. The critical mass job's done. The next job is scale. So the next job is to take a couple of companies and get them past $1 billion, which proves the model, and then the money starts flowing.
Yeah.
So that's even Canva. It wasn't until Canva was like a multi-billion-dollar success that everyone went, I get it, this now works.
Yes.
So this is the hard thing about investment is you think it's all about risk, and venture is all about, bold bets, and actually it's not. It's massively de-risked, and it's all based on historical data. So the first dozen companies have got to go succeed in spite of that. So we've got to brute force them across the line, and once we do, then it starts flowing.
Cool.
So yes, joinclimatesale.com, be part of it, and lots of value. Reach out. There's lots that individuals can do. I think I talked before about 1 in 8 billion people. You think you can't do much. I think we massively underestimate our influence in that. And I've never failed to show someone how they can have a really positive influence. So challenge me.
Thank you so much. It's been fascinating. We finally get to meet in real life.
Yeah.
We both know we're real.
Yeah.
But it's just such an interesting topic. It's such an interesting subject. I don't think most people would know there's that many companies in Climate Salad, and now they do, and they can see what you're doing, and you are having a huge impact. So one, thank you for your work.
No
absolutely. And thank you so much for coming and sharing it on the show.
Yeah, happy to share.
Thanks, Mick.
No problems.